a beautiful day in the neighborhood. True crime beanie, yo, number one. Numero uno. Day in the neighborhood. My brothers and sisters, my people, I'm glad, man, and I appreciate y'all for coming back to the channel and hollering at the ping. And boy, do I have a crazy story to tell y'all today. Now I gotta ask y'all a question real quick. Have you ever heard of the term drinking the Kool-Aid? Like, have you ever heard of somebody being like, don't drink the Kool-Aid, or oh, you just drinking the Kool-Aid, you believing in all this? Like, y'all heard of that, right? Well, I have the origin behind this terminology. And once you hear it, it's gonna always, every time you hear drinking the Kool-Aid from now on, it's gonna pop in your head like, oh man, that's where it really came from. You know what I'm saying? Like somewhere in the back of your cranium, you gonna think about this story after I spill the beans, after I give y'all all the tea behind it. Long story short, this is basically about a man named Jim Jones, who was a reverend turned cult leader who convinced over 900 people to drink the Kool-Aid. And they knew that it was laced with poison and that they would die. And they still did it anyway. But before we get into today's story, I need y'all to do one thing for me. Get whatever you may need. This is the story of Jim Jones and the Jonestown Massacre. Y'all got what y'all need? Y'all ready to do it? Then let's do it.
And say, yes, something out there is loving. That you cannot say. Because if you go by the fruit of what it made, 2 out of 3 babies going to bed hungry, that's not love. To make people a certain color and then to suffer all their days long just because they've got beautiful black skin, to work for half the pay in this state of California, to pay twice the rent, to be cheated every time they move, to walk in a department store and have everybody waited on before you get waited on. No, that's not love. Whoever made you did not love you. I did not make you, but by damn I will save you.
Good evening. Here's what's happening. We're interrupting our special broadcasting to bring you this special report, a UC news break on the People's Temple mass suicides in Guyana and the murder of Congressman Leo Ryan. I would mention to you now, tonight's movie will run in its entirety immediately following this special report. I also have to warn you as we begin this special report that what you're about to see almost defies description, and some of you may not want to watch it. As soon as these pictures from Jonestown cleared our newsroom, everybody, even a lot of hardened news people, reacted in horror and disbelief. The word on everybody's lips was shades of Auschwitz. These are the first pictures out of Guyana on the incredible orgy of death that took place in the People's Temple agricultural mission at Jonestown. This is picture number 1. This picture was taken from up high. It shows what the mass suicide looks like when over 400 cultists who believed in everything that Jim Jones said took their own lives. Now, this picture was taken by an Associated Press photographer who was the first one back in there after the mass suicide murders. As you can see, bodies are strewn all over the place.
Now, to start this story off, y'all, we gotta take it way back in the day. Way back in the day. To May 13th, 1931, in Crete, Indiana. When James Warren Jones, aka Jim Jones, was born to father James Thurman Jones and mother Lynette Pittle. Now, it's one thing that y'all got to keep in y'all head this whole time through the whole story. I just want y'all to remember this and remember this and remember this. And that is that Jim Jones was an only child. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being an only child. But in Jim Jones' case, there was something wrong with being an only child. Because you see, Jim would start to feel very neglected by his parents as a young child. And it wasn't because his parents were abusive towards him. Like, they made sure that he had a roof over his head and food on the table and clothes on his back. But they didn't like spend intimate time with their son. Now see, his daddy was a disabled war veteran. He came from overseas fighting in the war, and when he got back, he basically was bedridden. So he couldn't go to the park and play catch with Jim or ride bikes through the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Then his mom was later quoted as having no maternal instincts because she didn't really like spend time having deep conversations with her son, or just, you know, interacting with him day by day, making sure how you did, how was school, how you feeling today, are you okay? She never asked Jim any of those type of questions. She never played board games at the house with Jim. She never read him bedtime stories. Like, she didn't have those moments that all of us expect to have from our moms when we little kids. Now, this neglection would also extend to school, because Jim's classmates, they found him very weird. Like, he didn't have any friends in school. All the classmates, all his peers, they found him as being the oddball in the class. Like, during recess, you would see all the kids in the class huddled up in a circle or whatever, playing together, while Jim would be the only one playing by himself in the sand. And also, Jim wouldn't even go home after school. I'm talking about like a young child. Like, this man was like, well, this boy in this case, at this time, he was a boy around like 8-9 years old. He would just walk through the neighborhood by himself and, you know, just roam around, because going home, his parents didn't care if he was at home or not. And one day, a lady named Myrtle Kennedy, she was sitting on her porch, and she also was the wife of a preacher. She was sitting on her porch and she seen Jim walking around the neighborhood, as he did a lot of times after school, and she would start to talk to him, and she would take a liking to him. And she also gave Jim his first Bible. Now, when she gave Jim this Bible, Jim fell in love with it. Like, he would read the Bible more than he would read his books that the teacher would give him to study for whatever he had to do in class. Like, he would spend way more time studying scriptures of the Bible than anything else. And this would lead to Jim going back to school and starting to preach to classmates. And classmates would say that he would preach about a lot of stuff. And keep in mind, my people, this boy, I should say, was only like 8-9 years old at this time. And he was reading scriptures from his head, preaching scriptures from his head out the Bible. He was quoting the Bible as a young child. And not only did his classmates say that he would quote the Bible, but it was one thing about the Bible that they said that Jim was very obsessed with, and that was death. For some reason, Jim was infatuated with death. Like, that was his favorite parts of the Bible. When people would die, things are like when people would have to get sacrificed, or Jesus Christ on the cross getting crucified. Like, he just was infatuated with the point of death, and he loved the point of funerals. As a matter of fact, Jim was so into death and funerals at this time, till he found a neighborhood cat, like a stray cat in the neighborhood, and he killed it just so he can have a funeral for it. Like, Jim wanted to conduct his own funeral service, and he did in his backyard. Like, he had the cat laying in a box while he stood behind it and gave a whole preach to invisible people in the audience, in the congregation. And then after that, he buried the cat and even made a makeshift tombstone for it. Like, he carried out a whole funeral service for a cat. Now, let's fast forward to when Jim got in high school, because by this time, Jim would always walk around with the Bible. Like, 24/7, wherever Jim went, he had that Bible clutched right next to him. He was proud to walk with it. He would walk with it, and he would talk with it. And he would talk to other high school peers. Like, if he caught them doing anything wrong, these other teenagers around this time, like if he would catch them drinking or smoking cigarettes or smoking pot, anything of that nature, he would just pull out that Bible and start reading to them scriptures and just telling them how bad you are. You need to turn your life around and be a man of God or a woman of God. Believe in Jesus Christ. Turn your life around. Now, it was also one day that Jim went to a baseball game, y'all. And he seen a black man at this baseball game. Keep in mind now, this is 1940s. He seen a black man at this baseball game getting racial slurs out the yin yang from white people. Like, they was calling the N-word and monkeys and this and that. They was throwing stuff at him. And this infuriated Jim. Jim did not like when he seen this. And it was the first time that Jim realized that I hate all things racist. In 1945, Jim and his mom would move to Richmond, Indiana, because his parents had got a divorce. So him and his mama, they moved to Richmond, Indiana, where Jim would eventually graduate high school. And then he would start working at Reed Hospital. And the same thing that the little kids, his classmates, his peers, when he was a young child, was saying about him, his co-workers at Reed Hospital would say about him. That Jim was weird. He was very standoffish. Like, it was just something wrong with him. Even some patients would say this about Jim. And it was also at this time where Jim would meet a young woman named Marceline Baldwin. In 1948, Jim and Marceline would move to Bloomington, Indiana, where Jim would start studying at Bloomington University in hopes of one day becoming a doctor. You see, Jim really wanted to become a doctor because he wanted the opportunity to heal people. Now, this whole healing thing is going to come back full circle a little later on in the story. Also, in 1949, Jim and Marceline, they would tie the knot. They would become husband and wife. Now, let's fast forward to 1951, where the couple would move again to Indianapolis, Indiana. And Jim, he would still go to class. He was still taking night school, but he wasn't really invested in school like he was the past couple of years. Like, he started to shift from taking classes and studying to getting back into that Bible and preaching the things that he really believed in. And the things that Jim really believed in was communism and socialism.
The first time I visited People's Temple, I drove at the urging of a friend and a co-worker to Redwood Valley.
We all got suited down, neck tied and everything, and we were sharp.
The People's Temple services, they had life, they had soul, they had power. We were alive in those services.
I would be up jumping in the balcony and clapping my hands. If you came in as a stranger and didn't know anything about the politics, you were thinking you were entering an old-time religion service.
By the time Jones did come out to do his speaking, the table had already been set.
I represent divine principle, total equality, a society where people own all things in common, where there is no rich or poor, where there are no races. Wherever there's people struggling for justice and righteousness, there I am, and there I am involved.
Now let's go to the year 1956, when Jim would buy his first church, y'all. And he would name it Wings of Deliverance, but he would later rename it People's Temple Full Gospel Church, aka the People's Temple. And see, Jim Church at this time was starting to draw in like a good amount of people And the main thing why a lot of people came to his church was because of his beliefs and his practice of diversity. Like, there will be white people, black people, yellow people, orange people, brown people, purple people, any kind of rainbow people, like any color of the rainbow type of people that will be there. And this was such an impactful thing in the early 1940s and stuff, 1950s, around this time. Like, to see these people coming together at a church and all believing in the same thing, a lot of people love this, especially the black community. His church was mostly full of black people at this time, but even the white people who was against racism, they felt like this is a place that they can come and be comfortable and be happy, enjoying all people of all color. So a lot of people came to Jim Church. Long story short, short story long. And it was also at this time, man, well, the government did not like this. Even the FBI, like, they would chastise Jim and his family and try to come after them and try to berate them and just try to throw them off their pivot. Especially Jim, they tried to throw him off his pivot. Like, they did not like that Jim had such a integrated church in the city. But this only made Jim go even harder with his preachings of everybody be together and everybody love each other. Like, this did not stop Jim at all. He went even harder. And another reason that Jim Church would start to blow up at this time, like people would start flocking to his church to hear him preach, was because Jim was a very charismatic man. Like, he knew how to speak in such an elegant way, and he knew how to just convince people to hold on to his every word and just believe what he was saying.
This administration is for no other purpose.
That's right.
Than to show mankind the road to freedom. Condescending saviors that come to us by their so-called pity from some judgment hall. But I'm here as a sample and example to show you that you can bring yourself up with your own bootstraps, and you can become your God, not in condescension, but in resurrection, in upliftment from whatever condition, economic injustice or servitude or racism you might have had to endure. Within you rest the keys of deliverance.
And keep in mind, Jim had been practicing on how to be a preacher. Like, this man was preaching to an invisible congregation in his backyard and in his room when he was like 7, 8 years old. So by the time he became an adult, Jim was very seasoned on how to get his word across to his congregation. So at this time, y'all, Jim, his church, the People's Temple, is doing good. It got a lot of people coming there every Sunday, a lot of people listening to Jim. Everything seems good, except the Jim. Because Jim wanted even more people. Like, that's the one thing about Jim. No matter how many people he got to listen to him, how many people who he had to come to his church every Sunday, he always wanted more. So what Jim decided to do was bring his healing thing back into the equation. Y'all remember now, when I told y'all when Jim was going to Bloomington University, he was studying to become a doctor to heal people. But now Jim trying to bring it back full circle into his church, and he did. He didn't try. I take that back. He brought it back full circle in his church. But the only thing about when he brought it back, his idea of healing people went from being benevolent to sinister. You See, because Jim would actually start to tell his people that I can heal anything, like any ailments, any illnesses. Like if you got a broke arm, or you got a broke leg, or you got a cold, or you paralyzed, or anything like cancer, anything that's wrong with you, I can heal it. That's what he would start to tell his people within the church on Sundays. So then he started to host healing ceremonies, where he would pick certain people from out the crowd and tell them to come up, and he would ask them, what's wrong with you? And then they might be like, I can't stand up no more, I'm paralyzed. And Jim would give a serve, and he would do his little magic trick. He maybe will touch him on the head or touch him on the arm or something, and all of a sudden the person would stand up and, oh, I'm healed. And they would start dancing around the church, I'm healed, I'm healed, I'm healed. And the crowd would go crazy, like, oh my God, he healed that lady. She couldn't walk, and now she can walk. Oh, he is the greatest thing ever.
The doctor has relieved you from your work. In the second row, you have a bad spinal condition.
Yes.
And your hip is injured.
Yes.
Step from your wheelchair. Begin to step from your wheelchair. Try it. Just try it. Just try it. We have nothing to lose. We have no face to lose because we've said we're no panacea. But I have seen more healings here than I've ever seen any place. I love you. Jesus Christ loves you. Jehovah Jireh. All the goodness of all the world's great religions, in the name and the mercy and the goodness of Jesus, wherein I stand. Come forth, my dear. Stand out. Take that step. Bless your heart. Take that step. Take that step. Now. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward. Move forward, darling. You can do it. Move forward. Move forward. Child, sweetheart, would you step out my way just a moment so I can just keep my love forward. Now, move forward. Freely, freely, freely. Now begin to exercise the hip. Begin to exercise the joint. I love you. Christ loves you. The people love you. Now, sisters, walk briskly. Walk. Walk briskly. Walk. Walk.
Only problem with this, y'all, was Jim was lying. Like anybody that Jim healed at these healing ceremonies, they was 100% healthy. Like it wasn't nothing wrong with them. And they was in on it. Like Jim had certain people within his inner circle, like his close people of the church, in on these healing ceremonies. And this would bring even more people to his church, like Jim intended for it to do the whole time. Now, it's one thing, y'all, that I gotta give Jim credit for during this time. And that is that he would go have sit-ins at white-only restaurants or white-only theaters or even white-only police stations. Like, they would just sit in the restaurant and just stand up for their rights. Like, I deserve, like, I should have the right to be here just as much as the white people. So I gotta give Jim credit for that, man. Like, he was serious, bro. He wasn't just talking about that all men are created equal and it don't matter what color you is, we should always be treated the same. He wasn't just talking about that, he was actually being about that. And it was also during this time that Jim and his family would start to expand. Because, you know, he was married to Marceline and they had a biological son, but they would also start to adopt children. They adopted 3 Korean Americans, 1 African American, 1 Caucasian, and 1 Native American. And Jim would later be quoted as saying, I have the perfect rainbow family. Now by 1961, Jim would start to come to church on Sundays preaching about how he having visions of a nuclear attack that's going to attack Indiana very soon. Like he was starting to alarm his people that, hey, we need to get up out of here. We need to move to somewhere else that's more safe. And that's what Jim and most of his following, most of his congregation would do.
They that live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution. They shall revile you. They shall say all manner of things falsely against you. They shall do unto them everything that they wish to do, and even kill you, thinking they do God a service. And if you're not getting persecution, you're not living godly. So I have my credentials. What about you? If you're not getting persecution, you ought to ask why. Because when you live for truth, you'll be persecuted. And if you're not getting persecuted, you're not living the just life. You're not in the body of Christ, the body of this revolution.
You see, Jim would leave Indiana and search for a greater place for him and his people. And he would go to South America. And during this time, back in Indiana, his membership would start to decline. Like, he still had a good number of people coming to his church every Sunday. But while Jim was in South America, a lot of people weren't coming because Jim wasn't there. These people who were still there, they were such into Jim by this point. Like, he had them hook, line, and sinker. And he would even tell them that, hey, I need money for this exploration, for me to find a better place for us to stay. I need money, so send me money. And they would send him money. And after a while, Jim was in South America. He couldn't find nowhere to stay. So he decided, hey, let me come back to the United States, but we're still gonna move. And what he decided to move was San Francisco, California. And they also built a church in Los Angeles. So Jim and his family, they would move to California. And most of his inner circle from back in Indiana at the People's Temple, they would also move to California. And everything was going good, you know, in San Francisco. Everything was going good. They were starting to build the church back up. Everything seemed like it was getting back on its feet. But it was also at this time where you will start to see the first warning signs, the first alarming signs that something was wrong with Jim. Like, Jim was not practicing what he was preaching for real. Like, it was things that Jim was doing that was going against his word. Because Jim was having an affair with a woman from the church. And not only was he having an affair with this woman, but he actually got her pregnant. Like, Jim had a baby mama by a mistress within the church. And before the church could find out about it, before the church, you know what I'm saying, you know, word of mouth, before things can start swirling within the church and people can start talking about it and finding out about it, Jim would decide, you know what, next Sunday, I'm going to get up on the podium, I'm going to stand in front of all of the congregation, all my people, and tell them about it. And that's what he did. And once he told them about it, his people started cheering. They was like, oh, Jim, you're so honest. We understand. We forgive you. There's nothing wrong with this. It's okay. It's all right. You are our God. We love you. By 1970, Jim and members of his church would start to take the show on the road. Like, they would start going all over the United States. They would start going to Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. They would go up north to New York, Illinois, Maryland. Like, they would go all over the United States, spreading the word of socialism. And Jim was still conducting these fake healing ceremonies. And these people was believing it. They was in awe of it. Like, oh my God, this man is amazing.
What a sensation about you. Did you once lose a loved one? I think the name of James.
Yes, that's my brother.
He was 14 years of age. And he was reading something, and someone asked him for what he had, and he didn't want to give it.
Yes,
and
he did.
That person shot him to death.
Yes, he did.
I'm saying this to give you faith,
Yes.
so that you can mount up because you've been feeling pain here in the chest
Yes.
and in the back.
Yes.
And you injured your foot some time ago, and
Yes,
you've been
I
having
did.
constant pain in it, where you had to move around with a chair.
Yes, I did.
I do not know you, and you've told me or no one else the things I just mentioned.
No,
Is
you
that
sure
true?
haven't.
Now, where's your pain?
Don't mean it, dear.
To the point where even though they wasn't actually attending service back at the People's Temple in California, they was still funding it. Like they was sending money from wherever they stayed. They could have stayed in Virginia. They would mail checks to Jim in California. Like this whole road trip, this whole trip on the road throughout the United States only made Jim Jones' name even bigger. And with all this money that Jim was starting to get from all over the United States, he would start to build up his church from a church to a community. Like Jim would start to build up and open up stores, open up restaurants, open up colleges, open up houses for his community. And everything was going good. Until Jim started to feel like everybody in his community, everybody within his church owed him. Like he felt like any money that anybody in his church was making should go towards the church. To the point where he would start to berate people and make people feel so bad about if they with their family, if a husband and wife is with their little kids, they shouldn't go out to eat. They shouldn't go to the movies. That money that you spending at that movie, you should be putting into the church. And Jim would start to divide members of the church, like families within the church. He would start to divide them over money because some of these husbands was like, no, we need to spend some money on us. And the wife was like, no, we need to give it to Jim. Or some of these wives was like, we need to keep our money for ourselves. But the husband was like, no, honey, we need to give it to Jim. Like Jim was starting to just create a lot of drama within his church, within families of the church. By the time we get to 1971, Jim would start to abuse uppers and downers. Like Jim would start to get on that. Jim was on drugs, y'all. People could tell that he was high. They could tell that he was on something. So this one, Jim would start to wear his infamous shades 24/7. Like no matter what time of day it was, Jim would always have these sunglasses on, these shades on, these Louis Vuitton. People was wondering, like, Jim, why Jim always got these shades on? Why he always got this on? Why he always wearing these, even in the building, even inside, he got them on? And he would tell his people that the reason that I got these on is because I'm holding such a powerful Holy Spirit. I'm holding such powerful greatness, such just, oh my godness within my soul, to if I look at you with my bare eyes, your soul will be burnt. Your soul will catch on fire. I, with my eyes, can put a hole through your heart. And guess what, y'all? The people believed it. They believed it. When he got on these drugs, oh man, Jim started to just go crazy, man. He started to go crazy with power. Like, Jim would start to have sex with multiple people in his church. And not only women. Some of them were men. Some of them were children.
Got on the bus to go back to San Francisco. He sat down next to me and said, "You don't realize how beautiful you are, do you?" And he said, "I'm attracted to you." And he told me to go into the back of the bus. And I waited there. And then the door opened. And it was John's. And he said, "You're a beautiful girl. And you don't know that. And I want to show you that you are." And then he proceeded just to pull down his little zipper. and screw me.
And people in the church knew about it, and they was okay with it. Now I gotta say, y'all, that everybody was not okay with this. Everybody was not okay with all these shenanigans and all this getting high all the time and all this raping kids and just having sex with anybody you want to and taking money from the church. It was a small percentage, but there was people within the church who was not okay with this. And some of them would leave. And some of them would actually leave and tell reporters and within the news, or you know what I'm saying? Like just people within the community about the bad experiences they had at the People's Temple. And Jim hated this. This infuriated Jim to the point where he would tell his congregation that anybody who spoke out about anything that he was doing or anything that he had going on within the People's Temple, they were sworn enemies. Like they was against him and they was against you. They was against all of us. And we gotta fight back. And Jim did fight back. But not only did he fight back against people who was talking bad about him outside of the church, but he fought back against people within the church who was talking down about him. People who he found out was exposing him for all the malicious and evil things that he was doing. He would have these people come up on Sundays to the altar where he would have people within his inner circle beat them, like whip them in front of everybody, in front of the whole congregation. And he would expose everything that this person was saying and why we whipping him. He's a bad person. He need to be beaten. He need to be taught a lesson. And the congregation would cheer. They was happy. They was like, oh, Jim, you're doing such a great thing. Teach him a lesson. Teach him not to talk about the People's Temple.
Get in there, Mary. Hold it in there. That's it. Get in there.
And they're beat till they're bloodied. And Jim's snickering, that sick giggle that he had in the background.
Mary's getting a hell of a time up here. Hold in there, boys. Black and white together, you're having a little trouble. They're turning blue. We lost one white one. We got one black and one blue. Best fight I ever saw. Put up by a 70-some-year-old. Hold in there, Simon. She's out of my sight. There was no reason for that. You traitor. There was no reason for that. Damn you. What was the reason for doing that? I was trying to keep some humanity around here. Don't lie to this office anymore. We're tired of putting up with this. Don't lie to this office anymore. Do you hear me? Get your ass over there and sit down and see how well you work. People don't appreciate goodness. Sit your ass down.
See, in a way, he was making the whole congregation, all his followers, paranoid. Just like he was because of all these drugs he was on. He was starting to spread this to like the whole world. Like the whole world is against us and we need somewhere else to go, because if we stay here in California, they gonna come after our kids. So we need to go somewhere else where we can be safe and have our own utopia. And that's what he did.
Nobody joins a cult. Nobody joins something they think is going to hurt them. You join a religious organization, you join a political movement, and you join with people that you really like.
I think in everything that I tell you about Jim Jones, there's going to be a paradox. Having this vision to change the world, but having this whole undercurrent of dysfunction that was underneath that vision.
Some people see a great deal of God in my body. They see Christ in me, a hope of glory.
Jim Jones talked about going to the Promised Land, and then pretty soon we were seeing film footage of Jonestown.
Rice, black-eyed peas, Kool-Aid.
We all wanted to go. I wanted to go.
People's Temple truly had the potential to be something big and powerful and great. And yet, for whatever reason, Jim took the other road.
Guyana, South America, was the place that Jim decided to move his people to. Now, the reason that he chose Guyana as the country within South America that he wanted to move to was because this was the only country in South America where English was the native language. Jones first sent around 50 people to Guyana to start building this land up. And when those 50 people got there, that's all it literally was, y'all, was land. There was nothing there. And these people would literally start from scratch, building this place up. And the work was so tiresome, so grueling. Like, they worked almost 24/7. Like, they worked at least 20-hour days just trying to build up this town that Jim wanted. This utopia, his vision, his dream. These people really was trying to do it. And they would do it. Like, they were so dedicated because they would do anything to appease their father. Once his people had got a couple of buildings and farms and cottages up and running on the land, Jim would officially name the land Jonestown. And Jim would start to send back videos to the United States, to California, to the People's Temple, and even to his enemies like the government. He wanted them to see these videos too. He wanted everybody who was not in Jonestown to just see how amazing everything was going and how great they was living, like how wonderful Jonestown was.
These are potato chips made from plantain, and they're more delicious. They're a combination of a potato chip and a French fry. And radishes, You don't know what you're missing down here. They make their own buns and hamburgers and the leafy green vegetables. By the way, we just won first prize from the national government of Guyana for our leafy green vegetables. Here are the people at the table eating an afternoon snack. You see Pepsi-Colas here for 3 cents, American money. That sounds appetizing, doesn't it?
And he also would have people within Jonestown, the small amount of people who was there at this time, he would have them give testimonies. Like, they would get on the video and tell them how they just having a great time and they free and this is just the best air that they could breathe and all of the above. Like, Jim wanted to send back a message to all the people in the United States that, hey, you need to come live here because this is the best place on earth. This is heaven on earth.
Beautiful place here, and you can see how all the banana plants and everybody here is really enjoying here, and I really do like it.
And I'm just so glad to be a part of this down here, to be able to work and build a land.
I am really grateful to be a part of this family.
I really don't have any desire whatsoever to come back to the United States ever.
I've never been so totally happy or fulfilled in my life. I can't begin to describe it. You could sit here and talk all day long and no words could describe the peace, the beauty, the sense of accomplishment and responsibility and camaraderie that's here. It's overwhelming. It really is. You can't describe it.
And over time, this would get even more people to Jonestown. Like, these videos that Jim was sending back to the United States, especially his people at the People's Temple, oh, they started taking the plunge. They started coming to Jonestown in groves. It was groves of people, hundreds of people. Almost 1,000 people had moved to Jonestown. Sadly, when they got there, they would realize that Jonestown was not greener than the other side. Because when these people got to Jonestown, they thinking that it's going to be a place where they can just live freely and be work and stress free. But Jim had something else in mind for all these hundreds of people. All these hundreds of people. It didn't matter if you was a child or an adult. Jim told them that, hey, all y'all got to work and contribute to building up this town. And it went from like a very small village to an actual town. Like, Jonestown had restaurants, it had stores, it had libraries, it had schools, it had daycares. Like, these people really had built up something amazing, especially when you think about that they started from scratch. Now, even though these people had built up a nice sized town, it still was not big enough for over 900 people. Like, they had livestock and they had crops, but there was not enough food being produced in this town to feed everybody. Also, the cottages where the people were staying, they was overcrowded. Like, the cottages, think about it, y'all. pretty much the cottages was a 1-bedroom apartment. Or it was even worse. It was even worse than that. The cottages was only one room. Like, think about your living room. Like your living room. That's basically what the cottage was. And there was over 20 people staying in one cottage. Like, they would have bunk beds, like 10, 15 bunk beds in one cottage, and everybody was in there crammed on top of each other. And the food scarcity was so severe to most of the people in Jonestown, they would eat 1 time per day. And the thing that they would eat most of the time was rice. Like, that's all they had to eat was rice. And on Sundays, for some reason on Sundays, Jim would feel like, I guess he should treat his people, or, you know what I'm saying, reward them for the hard work that they was putting in building up this town with 1 cookie each. Now, I do want to say that there was some people in Jonestown who was not happy with these living conditions. Like, they was not happy with this utopia that's supposed to be heaven on earth, but was feeling like hell on earth. But they was only like a small percentage. Like, there was a small percentage of people out of the over 900 people who lived in Jonestown at the time. The majority of people, oh, they was cool with it. They was happy with it. Like, they was still following Jim blindly. Like, they was happy to get their cookie on Sunday. Also, Jim would start to smuggle firearms into Jonestown. And he would give these firearms to his most dedicated followers, like his most loyal people. He would give them these guns and have them be security of Jonestown. And he would tell his people within Jonestown that he got this security to keep all the enemies and all the haters and all the people who are against them out of Jonestown. But in reality, he had these security guards to keep people within Jonestown. Eventually, Jim would start to hold what he would call white night meetings, which basically was whenever he got on the intercom, whenever he started to ring the alarm throughout the town, he needed everybody to come meet him at the pavilion in the center of Jonestown. And this was all like random times where he would hold these meetings. Like, it didn't matter if it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning. Whenever he rung the alarm, everybody needed to meet him at the pavilion. Now, at most of these meetings, Jim would just ramble for hours and hours, just talking about this and talking about that. Like, he really didn't have any purpose for holding these meetings, other than he was just high as a mug. Like, you know what I'm saying? He was on his drugs and he just wanted to just talk and he wanted people to listen. So he would call them, like I said, at 3 in the morning, and they would last 3+ hours. It would be 6 in the morning by the time Jim get done talking to his congregation, to his people. And if he caught anybody falling asleep in these 3 hours while he just rambling on and on and on, they would be punished. And if he caught anybody trying to leave from these white night meetings within these long 3 hours of him just talking and talking and talking, he had the security surrounding the place. And they would catch these people and punish them. At some of these white night meetings, Jim would have some of his security guards go out into the forest and just start shooting in the air to simulate or act like Jonestown was under attack. Like, he was trying to put fear within his people at the pavilion at these meetings that, oh, we getting shot at, we getting attacked. And these people would believe it. One of these white night meetings of this under attack simulation thing lasted for over 6 days. Like, Jim had these people in the middle of town for over 6 days while his security guard was fake shooting or getting shot at by people. There was one time at a white night meeting where Jim would have everyone come up to the stage one by one and drink some Kool-Aid. And once they drank the Kool-Aid, Jim would tell them that it was mixed with poison. And some people would start to freak out, but the majority of people, they was okay with it. And then Jim would tell them that, nah, I was lying. I just wanted to make sure that y'all would do anything that I told y'all to do. And the people who were okay with drinking this Kool-Aid, they would reassure Jim like, yes, Father, yes, God, We would do anything that you want us to do. But the people who had started to freak out after Jim told them that this was laced with poison, even though it wasn't, they was like, oh no, it's time to go. This is the last straw. We gotta get up out of Jonestown. And eventually they would flee Jonestown. They would sneak past the security on the outside of Jonestown, and they would make their way back to the United States. And these people would start going to the press, they would start going to the government, they would tell people, even just in their neighborhood, they would tell people about the bad and dark secrets that Jonestown held. There was also people back in the United States who were relatives of people living in Jonestown. Like there was mothers and fathers or sisters and brothers who was living in the United States and they haven't heard from their son or daughter or their brother or sister in Jonestown in months. Because in Jonestown, there was no form of communication. Like there was no phones where people could call their loved ones and tell them, hey, we doing good, we all right, and we straight. All of this led to Congressman Leo Ryan and some members of the press and some people who were relatives of people within Jonestown to get on a plane and go see for themselves if Jonestown was a great place to live.
The original count of persons found dead at the Jonestown site has been found to be seriously in error. It now appears there may be as many as 780 bodies total found at the site. They were found simply buried under other bodies. There were larger adults that were grouped together, and under their bodies were found the bodies of smaller adults and children.
How is it possible that you can walk around and lift bodies up and not see it? It's so incredible.
When we were out there originally, there were bodies under bodies as we were working. But we were working on a total estimated count. As we briefed at the press briefing, we told you that the count we were working with was approximately 410, and we figured that there may be a few more hidden under bodies. As we began to work into the area and clear out the bodies that were visible, we kept discovering more and more and more.
Now, Jim already had caught wind that Leo and his group was coming to Jonestown before they even had left the United States. Jim knew that they was coming to South America. So what he would do was have a group of his security guards meet them at the airstrip in Georgetown, South America, not too far away from Jonestown. These security guards will pull up on Leo and his group at the airstrip with these big old guns hanging and told them straight up, y'all are not welcome in Jonestown because Jim Jones said so. And then the guards left. They went back to Jonestown. And Leo Ryan and his group, they would stay in Georgetown for 2 days. While Jim and Leo, they was on radio communicating back and forth, you know what I'm saying? Leo just trying to tell Jim that, hey, all we want to do is just come make sure everybody's straight in Jonestown. We don't mean no harm. We not trying to do nothing evil. We are not malicious. We are not hating on you. We are not against you. We just want to make sure that people straight. So Jim finally reluctantly let them in Jonestown. He was like, yeah, okay, y'all can come. Now, in these 2 days where Jim and Leo was going back and forth on the radio, the whole reason why Jim had told them from the beginning that y'all not welcome in Jonestown, that was just a stalling tactic. Because he was back at Jonestown then during these 2 days telling all his people at these white night meetings how to act when these people got there. Like he was conditioning them, telling them the right things to say and just, you know what I'm saying, be acting like you all happy and everything all good. On the night of November the 17th, 1978, Leo and his group of people, they would finally arrive in Jonestown. And when they got there, they seen this huge party going on. Like, it was this huge extravaganza. There was people dancing. There was music playing. Kids laughing. They had good food smelling in the air everywhere. Like, everybody was just so happy in Jonestown when Leo Ryan and his people got there.
The songs that we sang that night, it was people saying this is who we are and this is what we're about.
Jones was having a good time. Like, he laughing and joking with Leo Ryan and people that Leo came with, and everything just seemed all good. And eventually during the night, Leo would get up on the stage and he would address everyone in Jonestown. Like, he would let them know that, hey, the only reason that we here is to make sure that y'all all good. We did not come here to cause any disturbance or do anything malicious or none of that. And the crowd, they started to cheer. Like, they went crazy. Like, oh, Leo, we love you. But it's like, in a way, they was cheering because they was happy that Leo and his people was there. But in a way, it's like they was cheering because they was also happy they were there. Like, they was like, yeah, we good, we good.
Did all of you know that I'm here to find out more about questions that have been raised about your operation here? But I can tell you right now that from the few conversations I've had with some of the folks here already this evening, that whatever the comments are, there are some people here who believe that this is the best thing that ever happened to them in their whole life.
And this party would continue to go good until one of Leo Ryan's group members that he was with got a note slipped to them by one of the peoples of Jonestown. And basically what the note said was, get me the out of here. And Leo Ryan later on during the night, he would actually find out about the note. He would read the note and he would go back to the man personally who sent the note to his homeboy and tell him that, hey, don't worry about it. I'm gonna get you and anybody else who want to get up out of Jonestown out of here with us tomorrow. So the night, it eventually died down. Everybody, went back to their cottages. Jim Jones welcomed Leo and his people to stay the night, and everybody went to sleep. Then the next day, November the 18th, 1978, the largest known mass murder-suicide would take place. Because you see that next morning, Leo Ryan would tell Jim Jones that, hey, I got this note from somebody, and they said they want to leave with us.
Last night, someone came and passed me this note.
He's the one that I'm just talking about. Yeah, this is the man that wants to leave his son here.
Doesn't it concern you, though, that this man, for whatever reason, one of the people in your group...
People play games, friend. They lie. What can I do about lies? Are you people going to leave us? I just beg you, please leave us. Bill, we will bother nobody. Anybody wants to get out of here can get out of here. We have no problem about getting out of here. They come and go all the time. I don't know what kind of game. People like people like publicity. Some people do. I don't.
And then even more people just started coming out the woodworks. It was a small percentage compared to the over 900 people who was in Jonestown. But even this little small 10 to 15 people who started to say, hey, we want to leave, we want to go with y'all, we don't want to be here, it caused an uproar in the town.
You bring those kids back here! Hold on a second. You bring them back! One second. Don't you touch my kids!
Like, the people who wanted to stay, the people who didn't want to leave, they got real mad and real hostile towards Leo Ryan, his group of people, and the people of Jonestown who wanted to leave with Leo and his people. And Jim Jones himself would become furious. Oh, he got big time mad once these people started coming out talking about they want to leave, and Leo Ryan was like, hey, we taking these people with us. He did not like this, just like he never liked anybody turning on him. But he also was talking to these people like personally. Like he would pull them to the side and be like, hey, you know you can't leave here. Come on now. You know you my people. You know I'm your God. Don't leave. So it's like he was playing both sides of the fence. He really wanted them to stay, but he wanted to portray out to the people who actually wanted to stay for real, and out to Leo and his group that, hey, I ain't holding nobody captive. If they want to go, they can go. I mean, this whole morning, y'all, was just full of emotions. Like it was a roller coaster ride of emotions. Like it was just up and down, up and down, up and down. There was people mad in the mug, pissed off. And there was people sad. There was people who was scared. There was people who was happy that they had the potential to leave. There was all type. It was just a big pot of emotions, man. And Leo Ryan, he's supposed to been stayed back in Jonestown. He had decided that he was gonna stay back in Jonestown to potentially try to find more people who actually wanted to leave. So he was gonna send that first group of people on back to the United States with the little small group of people from Jonestown who already had declared that they wanted to leave. So that first group of people was about to leave, and Leo, he was in a cottage, and he bust up out the cottage. He started running to the truck, running to the truck, running to the truck, and his shirt was bloody. He had been stabbed by someone in Jonestown. He hopped on the truck and was like, hey man, forget this. I'm coming with y'all, and potentially, maybe, hopefully, one day I can come back and get more people. But there's so many people out here in Jonestown who mad at all of us. They pretty much want to kill us right now. So the best thing for all of us to do, even me, is go. So the congressmen in the group, they would start to head back to Jonestown, back to the airstrip, so they can get on the plane and go back to the United States. But when they got to the airstrip and was getting on the plane, 3 of Jim Jones' security just rolled up out of nowhere, rolled up and started going around the plane in a circle on the truck, just riding around the plane, and then they just opened fire.
We never know there's people hidden inside the dump truck. The moment they stop shooting right away. Everybody ran towards the plane, on this side of the plane. They tried to hide underneath the wheels.
Then the congressman ran under the plane, and I sort of followed suit and got behind one of the tires.
All you can hear is a gun pop, pop, pop goes off constantly. We lie flat on the tarmac at that moment. But shortly afterwards, I heard my partner, the cameraman, he yelled, oh shit, he said he got shot. He was sitting up.
They just started shooting at everybody, shooting at the congressman and all of his people that was with him. Even members of Jonestown, they didn't care at this point. They just shooting. They trying to kill everybody. And sadly, Leo Ryan and 3 other people would die. And everybody there got shot at least once. Now, some of these people who survived, they either fled into the woods and got away, or they laid on the ground and played dead until these 3 security guards left and went back to Jonestown. Also, one of these people who left with Leo Ryan, claiming that he wanted to leave Jonestown and he hated it here, he was a security guard of Jonestown. So when they got back to the airstrip and these 3 security guards started to ambush them, this man pulled a pistol out his pocket and also started to shoot at Leo and his people. Now back at Jonestown, Jim Jones would ring the alarm for the very last White Night meeting. And at this meeting, Jim Jones would tell everybody that, hey, the congressman is dead, this what happened at the airstrip, and because of all of this, the government, they coming to kill all of us. They coming to kill me, you, and our kids. And there is no way out of this but one way, and that is to do something revolutionary. Drink the Kool-Aid. Now see, every one of these White Night meetings that Jim Jones would hold, he always recorded it. Like there's hundreds of tapes from White Night meetings. And he recorded this last one. And when I tell y'all that this is some of the most sickening and just heartbreaking stuff that you can ever listen to, like it's almost unreal to hear this last White Night meeting.
The congressman's dead. they're going to allow us to get by with this? Must be insane. They'll torture some of our children here. They'll torture our people. They'll torture our seniors. We cannot have this.
And you will hear some people in the meeting actually fighting back like, no, it gotta be a better way. We gotta be able to do something else than drink this Kool-Aid.
Anyone that has any dissenting opinion, please speak. When we destroy ourselves, we're defeated. We let them, the enemy, defeat us. I look at our babies and I think they deserve to live. I agree. You know? But also they deserve one thing more, they deserve peace. We all came here for peace. Is it too late for Russia? I've listened to you. You asked me about Russia. I'm right now making a call to Russia. What more do you suggest?
Christine, your life has been extended to the day that you're standing there because of him.
But the most disturbing thing that I heard was people actually cheering on this tape. People actually cheered and was happy. For the majority, clapping like, yes, it's time to kill ourselves. It's time to kill ourselves, Jim Jones. We'll do whatever you say.
If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace.
Eventually, Jim would have everybody get in line so they can walk up to the stage and get their cup of Kool-Aid. And the whole time, it's people in line watching, seeing up at the stage that Jim got his most inner circle of people, like the people who really die hard, Jim for life, like the people who really thought Jim was God. They was the ones at the stage mixing this poison up in the Kool-Aid. And anybody who didn't want to come up to the stage and drink this Kool-Aid, anybody who tried to get out of line and run and leave and just escape real quick, oh, that wasn't happening. Because Jim still had his security. And they were surrounding the people in line at this time to make sure. Because if they seen anybody run, they were going to shoot them on sight. And if things wasn't crazy enough yet, Jim made sure that all the kids drank the Kool-Aid first. He had them first in line to inject this poison.
Hurry, hurry, my children, hurry. All right, they just not fall in the hands of the enemy. Hurry, my children. Hurry.
And some of the parents, they will start to freak out once they see their children start to pass out and die. Like it started to get real to them. And you can hear Jim on the tape, y'all. This tape, this crazy, crazy tape. You can hear Jim telling the parents that, hey, don't be sad, be happy that you and your kids are a part of this revolution.
Mother, 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 please. Mother, please, 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 don't do this, don't do this. Put down your life with your child, but don't do this. Die with respect, die with a degree of dignity. There's nothing to death, it's just stepping over into another plane. Don't be this way. Quickly, 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 quickly. Where's the vat? Right here, so the adults can begin.
Now, there were some adults who did not voluntarily drink this Kool-Aid. Like, some people fought back to the end about this. All the way to the point when they got up on the stage, they was like, I'm not drinking this. Nope, I'm not killing myself. But Jim made sure that they died anyway. Because he would have his inner circle, his security guards, inject them with it. Like, with syringes and needles or whatever. He made sure that you got this poison inside your body. Now, the most sad part about this story is when it was time for Jim to drink the Kool-Aid himself, he did not drink it. He convinced all these hundreds of people to drink the Kool-Aid for the revolution. And when it was his time to die for the cause, he was too scared. He was found dead with a gunshot wound to the head, more than likely inflicted by a lady who was found dead laying by him because she also had a gunshot wound to the head. So either she killed Jim Jones, then killed herself, or Jim Jones shot her, then killed himself. In the end, 909 people died in Jonestown on November the 18th, 1978. And that is the origin story behind drinking the Kool-Aid.
We laid it down, we got tired.
in an act of revolutionary suicide protesting the conditions of an inhumane world.
Hey, my brothers and sisters, first and foremost, I gotta say thank y'all for coming to watch the video, man. Like, this was my first one of these true crime horror stories that I actually did myself. You know, I love, if you watch my channel, I love reacting to them. But I decided to actually do one myself. And it was a journey. But it was a great journey, man. I'm having fun recording. I'm having fun actually editing it to y'all so y'all can see it. Like, this is a process that I'm actually having fun with, and hopefully, and I plan to do more in the future. But until that future comes, my friends, I gotta leave y'all with one thing: love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe, don't stop, keep going. Yeah.